Hey guys, coldbrew here. Welcome back to another video. The free legendary that we're getting with the Chimera boss that is coming very soon is out. We know its skills. We're gonna have a look at its two forms. Let's discuss it together and see if it's really worth the effort. I think it's gonna be worth the effort anyway. I mean, if we compare all the free legendaries we get through content so far in the game, let's go with Arbiter, let's go with Romantu, let's go with Mithrala. These champions are insane. Lydia, these champions are insane, useful, unique. Well, not so much for Arbiter, but everyone else is unique. You can only get them once, and they're just amazing. So let's get started with the base form of this new mythical called Embrys, the Anomaly. He looks really cool, really dark. Night Revenant mythical support on the base form with Fetid Glaive on his A1, doing an AoE damage that destroys max HP, stacks up to 30%, and can also increase the duration of one round of debuff on all enemies by one turn. This effect cannot be resisted if enemies have necrosis stack. So what is necrosis, guys? Before we go on to more of this, necrosis will be a debuff very similar to how poisons are and HP burns. Well, not exactly like HP burn. Think of it like a poison. It's going to do damage based on the target's max HP. And this debuff will be stackable, okay? You can have multiple stacks of necrosis. And necrosis only gets applied when one of your allies dies. So one of your allies dies, everyone else gets necrosis. So they take damage based on their max health. The way to remove necrosis is to revive one ally. Let's say you've got 3 stacks of necrosis on you. You got to revive 3 allies to remove them. That's how it works. And necrosis basically makes Embrys that much more powerful. He has an A2 that places True Fear on all enemies and a decreased attack debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. These effects cannot be resisted if enemies have any necrosis stacks, then grants an extra turn. This is also important because you get basically a reset on your cooldowns by 1 turn, reduction of your cooldowns by 1 turn when you do use the A2, okay? So your 4-turn cooldown now becomes a 3-turn cooldown because of the A2. The A3, 4-turn cooldowns again, when booked, by the way. And booking in Mythical is very hard. Attacks all enemies, removes any Stone Skin buffs, and replaces them with True Fear debuffs. So a removal of Stone Skin, a guaranteed removal, I hope, and not just a 50-50. I hope that this is how it works. Block debuffs buffs will also be replaced by block buffs debuffs. So what he does is he basically replaces the positive version of a buff to the negative version. So an increased attack becomes decreased attack, continuous heal becomes heal reduction, strengthen becomes a weaken, and so on. The mirror debuffs will have the same duration as the buffs before they were replaced, then steals 5% of each target's turn meter for each buff converted into a debuff by the skill. Also decreases turn meter of all enemies by 20%. So already looking like a very strong PvP kind of utilization here, where you remove the stone skins, so like a strong support for PvP. The problem is always with the polymorph skill, but again, there are ways around polymorph right now with the use of a specific set. So whenever an enemy is killed, places 1 necrosis stack on all other enemies. Necrosis stacks cannot be resisted or blocked. Necrosis stacks can only be removed by reviving the allies. Yeah, that's how necrosis works. Basically, he's gonna have an HP aura as well, and then the metamorph skill, which gonna transform him into his very unique alternate form. So Embrys the Anomaly becomes this thing on his mythical HP based damage dealing form. This is gonna be an insane form in terms of damage dealing. He'll have an A1 that does an extra hit if the target is under any necrosis stacks. Also plays a block revive debuff if this attack kills an enemy, so he can block revive an enemy when they kill them with this skill. Pretty cool. A2 atomize, deals double damage to enemies whose accuracy is lower than this champion's accuracy. Ignores 50% of each enemy's defense whose accuracy is equal to or higher than this champion's accuracy. So he'll be doing double hit or 50% ignoring of defense. I believe the double hit is much better than that. So basically you'll be building him with lower accuracy, so he turns into this form, and then he tries to do lots of damage. Okay, on enemies that are basically defensive and with high accuracy, he'll be doing the ignore defense. But Again, you'll be building him, I think, with the lower accuracy, in the sense of the ignore defense being a flat out better stat to look for. I don't know. I think because he's also going to be force here, the double damage is honestly, it doesn't really change anything, does it? I don't think so. It all also depends on his multiplier again. So I think the ignore defense is much better than anything else. Guaranteed ignore defense. So swaps HP with an enemy. If the target is a boss, fully restores this champion's destroy max HP and fully heals this champion instead. Each time this skill is used, it increases this champion's ignore defense effect by 10% while in their alternate form. Wow. So you get basically a 50% potentially, when you stack this up, 50% ignore defense guaranteed. And then if you are attacking enemies with higher accuracy than yours, you'll be also ignoring another 50. So I'm guessing these are stackable, and he'll be ignoring 100% of defense on the enemies. This will be insane for the Hydra, so PvE content. So you'll be getting him through the Chimera boss, though it's going to be the Chimera Clash. But I still think he's going to be very useful for that sort of content where he slowly stacks up. This cooldown is very long for PvP. So I'm guessing his first form is going to be more PvP friendly. And then his second form is more PvE focused, especially for the stacking effect. But also, I will say, even like 10 or 20%, if you can go for a prolonged fight, is still very solid. And then he also has an additional passive effect and an active effect where when this champion dies, reflects damage equal to 50% of the fatal hit back to the attacker, including any surplus damage. Whenever an enemy is killed, places necrosis, blah, blah, blah. If this champion is about to get killed by a fatal hit, preempts the hit and instantly places a revive on death. So basically a 5-turn cooldown for his passive, which revives him. Pretty cool, if you ask me. I think the first form is going to be like a stone skin remover plus buff remover. Protected buffs are always going to be a problem. So this is not going to be that useful against those situations. Let's say you're fighting a CF. Usually CFs, the end game CFs are running 9-piece protection. Many buffers are even running 9-piece protection at the moment. And basically this is going to do nothing, right? I don't think you're able to convert buffs if they are protected, because they are protected basically. So there's that. And then Embrys is going to be the damage dealing version. I think this guy will be high damage dealer. This guy will not be so used, but again, need to test them out when they are actually within the game. This is my review, guys, of this brand new mythical that will be joining us. And the necrosis also sounds pretty interesting. But again, you need to kill allies for this to stack. And this is basically a PvP debuff more than anything else. For PvE, it's going to be nice, but I can't think of a scenario where this is actually applicable. I don't think necrosis will work on bosses. So I don't think this is going to work on the Hydra heads. I don't think they are considered as dead. But yeah, necrosis is pretty cool. It doesn't affect this guy at all much. His A1 also basically becomes an extra hit. With necrosis, everything else doesn't really care for necrosis. But that was it, guys, for today's video. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.